As a way of introduction, my name is Pedro Arellano, and I run the outbound product management team for Looker here at Google Cloud. Just as somebody who started his career in the data and analytics industry, many years ago in the late '90s, it's incredibly exciting to see how data and analytics has evolved and just really see the things and the use cases that companies are doing with data today. But let's rewind a little bit and go back to this month 1 year ago, more specifically, March 3rd, 2020. So that was the day that the Google Cloud's acquisition of Looker was finally done, and this was the day that the Looker team descended upon Google headquarters in Mountain View, California, to go through our onboarding process and officially become Googlers, right? So you can imagine, I'm sure, how excited we all were to start this new chapter in our careers. And that's a picture of my dog there, by the way. That's Coco, wearing my Noogler hat. She was obviously very excited too. Now, none of us could have imagined back then what was about to happen. Literally 1 week later, the week after that happened, Google instructed all employees to work from home. And things in the United States began to shut down, like in many parts of the world. Now, it's been over a year since that day, and obviously we all know what's happened. We're still coming to terms with just the devastation of the pandemic. There's, of course, most importantly, just the massive human toll, just millions of lives lost or altered profoundly all over the world. And there's, of course, the economic toll. We saw a dramatic rise in unemployment, hundreds of thousands of businesses that shut down. Here in the United States, you see estimates that vary between 160,000 to more than 300,000 that had to shut down last year. And according to certain economic impact reports, nearly 100,000 of those did so permanently. So, and we even started 2021 with some pretty grim prospects. One research study estimating that as many as 10,000 retail stores could close this year. But we've started to turn the corner. I think many of us can feel like things are changing for the better. Economists are seeing encouraging data points, very encouraging data points that suggest not only that things are picking up, but that we may even see a post-pandemic boom. So an era of lower unemployment, higher wages, and years of sustained stronger growth. So take retail sales as one of those data points. Economists were expecting that they would see retail sales increase 1.2% in January. They actually surged 5.3%, far higher than any of the experts predicted. And there are many signs like this. New unemployment claims have declined. There was a surge in startup businesses. I'm actually going to talk about one of those when I get to the stories. And economists are now forecasting that the economy will grow 6.8% this year, and that unemployment is going to drop to 4.1% by December. And just to put those figures into context, it took us 8 years after the last recession here in the United States to get to those levels. So it's pretty remarkable that we would see such a quick and strong recovery. Now, of course, even last year, amid the disruption that we were seeing, we did see certain sectors of the economy do well. As you might expect, e-commerce thrived, of course, because all of us were home and shopping from home. So online sales, just to give you some figures, during the holiday period reached $201 billion in the United States. And in total, we spent $861 billion online in 2020. That is up 44% from 2019. In 2019, online spending represented 15% of all retail sales. Last year, that number was up to 21%. So that means that more than 1 out of every $5 we spent last year was online. Digital advertising, another example. For the first time, you saw many companies spend more on digital ads than on TV, for example. And when the pandemic hit, you saw a lot of companies shifting most, if not all, of their advertising revenue to digital. And as a result, they saw their sales increase anywhere between 300 to 500%. Now, of course, many of these companies' business models were already heavily based on digital, but not all of them. The pandemic really was a very real, massive shock to the system, and it required the ability to adapt extremely quickly. For many companies, what it did is it accelerated their journey or their migration to digital-first experiences. So this here is a tweet from the CEO of Box from last April, who shared that he spoke to a number of CIOs at Fortune 500 companies and learned that their IT strategy was all of a sudden very different from the previous year. What does that mean? It means more cloud, more digital, more automation, and really years of acceleration compressed into a few months. So what we learned last year is that business as usual doesn't really exist anymore. Our industry has been talking about digital transformation for years. But now there really feels there's a very palpable sense of urgency behind it. And more than ever before, businesses are now challenged to accelerate their move to digital and adapt their business models to this new digital reality. A few more stats to share with you here. This is from a study that showed that 70% of CEOs say that the pandemic accelerated the creation of digital business models by months or even years. In Europe, European firms who generally lag behind their U.S. counterparts when it comes to digital say that more investment is needed because of the pandemic. And then, of course, the way we work is also changing. 96% of employees who are able to work remotely want to continue with some form of it, either full-time remote or some kind of hybrid model. So many things are changing. And now the question is, as data leaders and data professionals, how can you help your organization prepare for this new digital realities? How can you make your organization more resilient to future shocks? So I'm going to share a number of stories that all have a few things in common. They all use data as the starting point to deliver digital-first experiences. And the digital investments that they had made in cloud, in more modern data solutions, and emerging technologies allowed them to react and adapt very quickly, allowed them to activate their business through data-driven workflows, and allowed them to augment their products and service offerings with new technologies. So let's take a look at these examples. The first set of stories is about the ability to adapt to unexpected circumstances. So how these organizations use data not only to survive, but to deliver real value in the middle of the pandemic. The first one is an organization called Commonwealth Care Alliance. They are a not-for-profit healthcare organization based in Massachusetts. They specialize in community-based healthcare for individuals that have very complex medical needs, including people with disabilities. Now, CCA had already been a customer of ours since 2019, so the year prior to the pandemic. And really their goal was to migrate to the cloud and address some issues, some problems around data bottlenecks and data chaos. But last year, when the pandemic started, they were suddenly in a situation where they needed to understand which of their members were now at highest risk. So, find out if a member had a positive COVID test, or who were the members that had the highest risk of bad outcomes if they became ill, or the most vulnerable members who would need the greater attention. So all of a sudden, their goals shifted from let's migrate to the cloud and manage our data better to we need to understand who the people are that need our help the most. And how do we use data to identify those risks and in those locations so that we can react very quickly. Now, because of that investment in cloud the previous year, they were now working on a more modern data infrastructure, which allowed them to pivot very, very quickly and redirect their analytics efforts to those very urgent questions. It literally took them 2 hours of work to spin up a new monitoring dashboard for COVID that showed them all the members living in a county where there was a COVID outbreak, as well as their risk for a bad outcome. So they analyzed data about every patient who visited them in the last 90 days. They applied predictive analytics to determine who was at the most risk. And this data helped their care managers be a lot more effective so that they could reach out with home care solutions and that way prevent patients from having to come in for a visit if it were too risky. The next example is a company called SoundCommerce. SoundCommerce provides a data platform that helps retail brands with data models and metrics and insights. And these insights give SoundCommerce customers a path to shift things like ad spend and inventory from brick and mortar to digital. So last year during the pandemic, many of SoundCommerce's customers had to shut down, of course, as you know, their brick and mortar store locations. Thanks to SoundCommerce, they were able to understand regional trends that helped them quickly transform the e-commerce portion of their business from the secondary source of their revenue to their primary source of revenue. So now you have all these retailers that have all these store locations that weren't being used, right? So the question was, what if they could repurpose those store locations as fulfillment centers for online orders? And the data gave them insights that allowed them to identify what are the optimal store locations for their inventory. And then they essentially converted those stores into fulfillment centers. And for their customers, it really sped up the purchase process because it made products available in a fraction of a time, closer to them. It reduced shipping time. It made curbside pickup faster. It ensured that the right inventory was available for any exchanges. And of course, it just improved the shopper experience. And all of this, of course, all this shift to digital happened so quickly in the middle of the pandemic. And then the last example in this section is a company called Harbor. So Harbor is a software company that helps to digitize the hiring process. They use data, they use machine learning to automate parts of the application process, the interview process. And initially, their data and analytics process was very manual. They relied on very, very labor-intensive statistical analysis. But they got bigger, they got more customers, and it became clear that they needed to scale, to have a more scalable process. So they built this product called Harbor Insights, and we have a number of customers that actually do that with data. They build their own products. And this product, Harbor Insights, has helped hiring teams not only reduce the length of the process, but also handle 4x a 4x increase in applicant volumes. Now, one of their customers is a virtual workforce company that provides customer service reps. And during the pandemic, as you can imagine, they experienced an unprecedented influx of people coming to them looking for remote work opportunities. This digital automation process that Harbor already had in place from their Harbor Insights product allowed this customer to place 150 agents in just 4 days. And these people were able to support COVID-19 testing efforts and help thousands of Americans find remote work opportunities. So we just covered some companies that figured out how to use data and modern cloud technologies to react to the pandemic very quickly and deliver digital-first experiences to the people that rely on them. And at the core of this was really the ability to use data to power analytics and drive insights to help make better decisions. But what if you could use data not just for analysis, but also to fuel business processes? Well, these next stories are about that. So this first customer is a company called FuturePlay. FuturePlay is a mobile gaming studio in Finland. They're the makers of games like Battlelands Royale, Idle Farming Empire, and every day over 1 million people play FuturePlay games. So as you can imagine, this company is extremely data-driven. They generate massive volumes of data every day. And they use this data to understand everything about their games, from high-level metrics across all the games, but also deep dives on a very, very specific feature in one game, for example. But what I want to talk about with this here is they have a very innovative use case. FuturePlay built a real-time AI-powered bid bot. So this bid bot, what it does is it automatically adjusts the bids for their ads up or down on a number of digital advertising platforms, depending on the performance of each ad. So it's pretty interesting. The bot knows if it should increase or lower the amount of a bid. And essentially what they've done is they've automated their how they optimize ad spend, right? It's an enormously valuable application. But what's really fascinating about it is that in this use case, at no point is there somebody sitting in front of a screen looking at data visualizations, right? They found a way to use data differently than just analyzing it. They've actually put it to work and automatically trigger processes that help run their business in a very efficient way. This next company is GoSpotCheck, and it's a company that I'm going to mention 3 times throughout the presentation because they have some really innovative ways to use data. Now, GoSpotCheck is a task management platform. Their platform enables teams and frontline workers to complete tasks on mobile devices, and then generates insights or triggers actions in real time based on what the frontline workers are doing on the mobile app. So there's lots of applications for this in operations, in merchandising, in training, quality assurance, facilities management, etc. This first story is about how they help companies optimize customer workflows by automating field processes and by reducing or sometimes even eliminating manual intervention. So it's a national furniture retailer that uses the GoSpotCheck solution to track in-store repairs and maintenance requests. And then based on that information, they initiate data-driven workflows when certain criteria are met. So for example, upon identifying a need for a repair or maintenance, district managers will take a photo of the issue and then submit it via the app. And then the platform automatically triggers an email via Looker to the company's repair and maintenance team. And then that triggers a ticket to their work order management system. All these different systems that are linked and automatically trigger like this little chain, it greatly improves the speed and the time to submit and complete a work order request. And of course, this impacts safety, it impacts customer satisfaction. And once again, it's all about using data not to analyze, but to take action. One more GoSpotCheck story. So this next example is about a national grocery merchandising broker. So they rely on the GoSpotCheck solution to help its merchandisers and field sales reps optimize product placement and product performance. So what their solution does is it helps them track things like distribution and inventory, merchandising, point of purchase programs across thousands and thousands of grocery stores. And traditionally, this is a process where brands have to invest tremendous amount of resources to influence retailers to stock and to feature specific products, right? And then the merchandising brokers need ways to measure the ROI of the promotions, the displays in the store, and the merchandising service. So what this particular broker did is that they created an automated alert within the GoSpotCheck solution that automatically notifies merchandisers when a particular item hasn't been scanned at checkout in a given time period. So, hey, it's been a couple of days since this particular item was purchased. What's going on? So when this happens, there's a brand representative that automatically receives a notification to go check on the product in the store and also engage with that store's location manager to come up with other things that can be done when the product is sold out, like, can we sell something else when the product isn't available? Now, previously, this process is very complex, was all done very manually, but now it's all done automatically using these data-driven alerts and these data-driven workflows. And it's this type of purpose-built data application that makes it so easier, in this particular case, very easy for the broker to identify trends, to identify opportunities in real time, and ensure that the retailers, the stores, are maintaining appropriate stock levels for its brands. So we've looked at organizations now that use data to generate insights that help deliver better digital experiences. And then we looked at organizations that use data to automate business processes. And in this last section, we're going to look at companies that are using advanced technologies to support some really innovative use cases. So the first one is Cuventus. Cuventus offers a software platform for hospitals. Their product uses artificial intelligence to help automate patient flow across everywhere in the hospital, emergency departments, pre-op areas, patient safety, inpatient, outpatient, pharmacy, you name it. When the pandemic hit and hospitals saw, of course, a dramatic increase in hospitalizations, Cuventus tackled the problem of massive capacity pressures on health systems and the problem of increased demand to have the right PPE supplies at the right time. So they developed this scenario planner for COVID-19 that used data science to predict the impact on specific hospitals. And they were using local data, publicly available data that was generated in real time to get the most up-to-date perspective on what was happening in each location during the pandemic. So this solution allowed hospitals to address two issues. The first one is, are we going to have enough PPE to equip staff given the increased consumption that we're seeing, given the shortages that are out there? So for example, generating forecasts for gloves and gowns and surgical masks and face shield and COVID tests. And then secondly, how can we efficiently discharge patients to post-acute care given the capacity constraints that we're facing? Thousands of hospitals use the Qventa solution, and it's been enormously helpful in really allowing hospitals to understand the capacity constraints and really better plan for their PPE purchases. And then one more example from GoSpotCheck. This is the third one that I've mentioned. This one is about consumer packaged goods, and it's one that I find particularly very interesting. CPG brands, as you can imagine, really care about product placement and their presence on the store shelf. They want to know exactly where their products are positioned, how many of their products are present, how are they doing against their competitors in every single store, right? It's a very tedious process to collect all this data by hand. So what GoSpotCheck did is they created a new features, a new app that allows you to simply take images through the app. You have a field rep that has the app, and they take a picture of a refrigerator or a cooler, and within seconds, really seconds, the app returns the analysis, so a user doesn't have to stand there with the clipboard and manually have to count how many bottles of Pepsi or Bud Light or whatever. So just through the picture, they can know what is the share of space by brand family, by category, by supplier. Not just that, but also what else is on the shelves, what position is it in, what shelf is it on. It's really granular level data that delivers extremely high value analysis, and it's a real game changer for CPG companies. And what's interesting about this is the sheer amount of insights that you can generate just from one image in a matter of seconds. It's really impressive, especially when you consider that the field rep is not just visiting one store. They're visiting 20 stores per day, taking 10 to 15 images in each store. And it's not just one rep, it's tens of thousands of reps doing this. We're talking about a massive data set, incredibly powerful insights that come from combining image recognition with mobile technology with world-class analytics. My last example is a company called UseMobility. UseMobility is a company that places AI-powered digital billboards on commercial vehicles and public transportation. So if you're driving, or walking down the street and you see a van go by with the digital ad, that's what UseMobility does. It's a great idea, not just because of the advertising, but also because it gives the owners of those vehicles the ability to generate new revenue. They see just a really big opportunity to reach an enormous audience. So here in the United States, over 300 million potential customers that are not being reached when we leave our front door and we're not watching TV or receiving ads in more traditional ways. This company is really interesting because they launched their business in the US during the pandemic. And what's innovative about their offering is that their ads respond automatically to real-time geo data and real-time weather data collected by IoT sensors on the vehicles. And these sensors tell the billboard everything from what the weather is like to the type of neighborhood. So you'll see an ad for ice cream on a hot day, or if it's raining, you'll see an ad for an umbrella. Or let's say that the vehicle is driving through Fifth Avenue in Manhattan. The ads would instantly shift to luxury consumer goods. So one example of a company is a company that sells mobile airbags for bikers. It's a customer of Use. They had a bike with this large digital screen go through bicycle lanes in Berlin, and they were delivering the right ad to the right audience at the right time. They saw their sales increase 38% after this ad. There's a lot of opportunity here. They plan to take these insights now, the insights that they're generating from the IoT sensors, and monetize them, building a new product that they can take to market. So let's wrap up now with a summary of what we've covered and a few takeaways. The pandemic was a real shock to the system that accelerated the migration for many companies to digital-first experiences. And as data leaders, you are positioned probably better than anybody else in your organization to help your company prepare for this new digital reality. The stories that we looked at today show us that investments in data and modern cloud technologies are really necessary to be able to adapt very quickly. They're going to put you in a position to be ready to react immediately to that next disruption whenever it happens. They also show us that reports and dashboards are just the beginning, and that data is no longer just something that you analyze. You can use data as the fuel to trigger data-driven workflows and to power digital experiences like intelligent bots and automated alerts and notifications or digital billboards. And they show us that it's imperative for organizations to think beyond business intelligence, embedded analytics, artificial intelligence, image recognition, IoT. All these powerful capabilities are going to enable you to bring very compelling digital experiences to market. So let's hope that the light at the end of the tunnel continues to get brighter and that we continue seeing these very encouraging signs of a recovery and that there's a very prosperous era awaiting us on the other side. I wish you all good health and success. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the event.